The doctrine of estoppel means that if a person has made a statement or acted in a particular way and another person has relied upon it, the first person cannot later deny that statement or conduct. Its main purpose is to prevent injustice and ensure fairness. However, estoppel has certain important exceptions. 3 such exceptions are estoppel against statutes, estoppel against sovereign acts, and estoppel by mere silence. 1. Estoppel against statutes meaning, estoppel cannot be used to defeat or override the provisions of a law, statute. If a statute clearly requires something to be done in a particular manner, no person's promise, agreement, or conduct can prevent the law from being enforced. Simple explanation. Suppose a law says that a person below 18 years cannot enter into a valid contract. If an adult tells a 17-year-old, "Don't worry, I will treat this contract as valid," the adult cannot later be prevented from relying on the law. The statute will prevail because no one can change the law by agreement or representation. Why this rule exists? Law is superior to private agreements. Public interest is more important than individual promises. Nobody can legalize something that the law prohibits. Important principle. There is no estoppel against law. 2. Estoppel against sovereign acts meaning, estoppel generally does not apply when the government performs its sovereign or public functions for the welfare of the people. The government cannot be prevented from exercising powers that are given to it by law for public interest. Why this rule exists? Government acts for the benefit of the entire public. Public authorities cannot give up statutory powers through mistakes or unauthorized promises. Public interest is always given priority over private benefit. Exception. If the government makes a lawful promise within its authority and a person changes his position relying on it, courts may apply the principle of promissory estoppel, provided it does not violate any statute. 3. Estoppel by mere silence meaning, mere silence generally does not create estoppel. Simply remaining silent does not mean that a person has accepted or admitted something. Simple explanation. If a person says nothing while another person makes an incorrect assumption, estoppel will not arise merely because of silence. However, if there was a legal or moral duty to speak and the person intentionally remained silent to mislead another, estoppel may apply. When silence becomes estoppel, there was a duty to disclose the truth. Silence intentionally encouraged another person to believe something. The other person relied on that belief and suffered loss. General rule: silence alone is not estoppel, but silence accompanied by a duty to speak may amount to estoppel. Case study: Union of India v. Indo-Afghan Agencies, 1968. The government announced an export incentive scheme and promised certain benefits to exporters. The exporter fulfilled all the required conditions relying upon the government's promise. Later, the government refused to grant the full benefit. The Supreme Court held that although the government generally acts in public interest, it should not arbitrarily go back on a lawful promise when a person has acted upon it. Therefore, the government was directed to honor its representation. However, the court also clarified that estoppel cannot compel the government to do anything contrary to law or public interest. Simple understanding: if the government makes a lawful promise and a citizen honestly relies on it, the government should usually keep its promise. But if keeping the promise would violate a law, then the law will prevail. Conclusion: estoppel is a rule of fairness, but it is not absolute. It cannot override statutory provisions, cannot stop the government from performing lawful sovereign functions in public interest, and generally does not arise merely because a person remained silent unless there was a duty to speak. Thus, the doctrine balances fairness.